Before we get into today's show, we've got a sub battle this week with our Vikings channel here at Chat Sports because the Broncos take on the Vikings in the week 3 of the preseason. So let's not only beat them on the field, but also beat them in subs this week. If you're competitive or if you love the Broncos, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Today's Broncos breakdown is presented to you by Aura, which is an all-in-one digital safety company that helps to keep your wallet and your identity secure and protected when you are online. They are offering Broncos Country a 14-day free trial when you just try them out over at aura.com/chatsports. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. We'll tell you more about their awesome benefits later on. But coming up on today's show, we're going to hit on the latest injury news surrounding KJ Hamler and a couple other guys, including Michael Ojemudia, who is expected to miss some time. So we'll be checking out some potential Ojemudia replacements. We should probably look internally first, but we'll also check out some free agents as well. But let's start things off by talking about number 1, KJ Hamler. So, Summer of George, with an interesting first name, tweeting out, Nathaniel Hackett says they hope to get KJ Hamler on the field for some team reps this week. Even leaves the door open to him possibly playing Saturday in the final preseason game. So, Hamler, I think some of us are just kind of in our heads of tore his ACL early last season. Yeah, he should be good to go week 1. No, we talked about this just the other day on the show, that this was not your run-of-the-mill ACL injury, okay? He tore his left ACL. He also dislocated his hip. He had numb legs for 2 to 3 days. That new ACL in his left knee comes from the patella in his right knee. So he had both knees operated on. He was in a hospital for 2 weeks, lost 40 pounds, a lot more. This was not your procedure, standard, prototypical ACL injury. Unfortunately, it was rather large and significant for Hamler, so no shocker that he might not be ready for the start of the start of the regular season. Now, speaking of the preseason, Mike Kliss reporting that Hackett said same plan for Vikings preseason game. What does that mean? No top players. So you can expect once again to see 21 of the 22 starters sit that final preseason game. We've seen Calvin Anderson start. We've seen Albert Okwuegbunam start. None of those guys played very long minutes or many impactful drives or series, but those were one of the few players, some of the few players who have started so far in the preseason. Now, Nathaniel Hackett opened up on why this is his plan, saying, the fans will understand more when we get all the way to week 17 or all those things. We want to see them in real games, which I understand. Now, there has been some pushback from Broncos Country about sitting everyone under the sun throughout the preseason thus far. Let me ask you this question. Do you agree with resting everyone? And I mean literally for the entire game, not one series, not even one snap. Simple Y for yes or N for no. Let me know what you're thinking down below. Now, Hackett has often referenced a bit of a path of why this works. Look at the preseason records for the teams that finished in the top 4 last year. The Super Bowl winning LA Rams went 0-3 in the preseason. Clearly, it worked out pretty well for them. The AFC champions, the Cincinnati Bengals, went 1-2. Now, the Chiefs went 3-0 and the Niners went 2-1. So yes, it's not exactly a complete linear line of bad preseason, great in the regular season, but there is a good amount of tape out there and history to tell you, do not overreact to a beatdown in Buffalo in the middle of August when not a single starter is playing past the first drive, right? Now, before we get to the rest of the injury news on Michael Ojemudia and the rest of the squad out there, I want to tell everyone watching about our proud sponsor today, Aura. In a day and age where we do more online than ever before, we better start being protected like that. So if you do not want to see your credit card or your identity hacked and leave it up to the hacksters to run up your bill, make sure you have Aura in your corner. They're going to give you guys a 14-day free trial so you can experiment and see if Aura is a good fit for you. Get started at aura.com/chatsports. The link is in the comments and the description of today's episode. Let's move on to number 13, Michael Ojemudia, and the latest on him after he suffered a dislocated left elbow in Saturday's preseason game, which sort of supports Hackett's methodology of not playing anyone important. And you could argue Ojemudia is sort of on that line of not important or important, plus you got to play someone out there. But he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, which kind of times up for a week 3 to 5 return if he follows that timeline. So let's check out the depth chart right here, because I've seen a lot of people asking about what about signing someone in free agency, because all of a sudden the CB room is looking a little thin after your stars of Patrick Surtain and then Ronald Darby opposite him and K'Wan Williams in the slot. You trust Damari Mathis, the rookie? That's a pretty big leap of faith to take right there, that your 4th-round pick out of Pitt is ready to go and be that third corner, because you're going to see a lot of teams throw multiple receiver sets out there, which means Damari Mathis will be getting a lot of minutes. Now, first things first, let's show Michael Ojemudia that everyone in Broncos country is thinking of him and wishing him a quick recovery. Type his jersey number 13, down in the comments section to let him know we all would love to see him back on the gridiron sooner rather than later. As for some replacement options in free agency, you've got some names you recognize, like Chris Harris, of course. And that might not be all that feasible, but at least he is familiar with Denver, although there was a bit of bad blood during that breakup before he went to the Chargers. Kevin King, Xavier Rhodes, Janoris Jenkins, and Joe Hayden. Some other big notable names. We're talking Pro Bowlers still out there. Kevin King, the youngest of the bunch at 27, just a second-round pick from the Packers a couple of seasons ago. Hasn't worked out well in Green Bay, and that's ultimately what led to him not being brought back after his final year after a one-year contract. Xavier Rhodes, another top pick for the Vikings. He's played for the Colts the last 2 seasons. I've liked what I've seen out of him, but Father Time has caught up to him. He is one of the oldest of the bunch, along with Janoris Jenkins and Joe Hayden. But I'm specifically looking at 2 guys. If Paton really wants to go out and make a signing to try and keep this cornerback room stacked and loaded for the first couple of weeks until Ojemudia can return, Kevin King is an interesting name because he's the youngest, and ultimately GMs are looking for that at this point in the offseason. Now, you might remember his infamous play, which was against the Bucs in the NFC Championship game, and Tampa Bay scored right before the half, and ultimately it led to the Bucs rolling through Green Bay and onto a Super Bowl win. We've seen some players in Green Bay before make horrible plays in the postseason that sort of just ends their time in Green Bay. Maybe a change of scenery, he can get that out of his mind, and he can get a fresh start at Mile High. Joe Hayden's another guy I am looking at here because he has been one of the more consistent corners in the NFL, played some great ball for the Browns, and then played even better football for the Steelers after that. So that could be another name that Paton goes out and looks into during this sort of replacement window for Ojemudia. Now, I want you guys to take the seat of George Paton. Should the Broncos sign a corner? S for sign or P for pass? Let me know what you're thinking down below. I'll give you my opinion right after this. Paton has been a little bit on the lower key side of making moves and splashes in free agency so far. Not to say he's been boring in the offseason, right? You go out and you trade for Russell Wilson. You only have so many bullets in the chamber, but he has not been a GM to just go out and put heat-seeking missiles on big names that everyone knows and had a couple good seasons a while ago and are still on the market, right? Sort of, I don't know, like the Raiders, for example. They're always linked to just big names from 2019, and the nation just eats it up here. But that is what I think kind of the mindset for George Paton is of, hey, sorry to disappoint, but no, I'm not going to go out and get a big name you heard of a couple of years ago, and they're still on the street. Let's move on a little bit here. We got some other news and rumors to round up before we send you guys on your way. Quickly, just want to take a brief check here at this preseason Week 2 finale between the Broncos and the Bills. that had a lot of people very upset. And hey, it's preseason. Do not read into this too much. If you guys want to have some big, strong takeaways from preseason, enjoy that. Because when the regular season rolls around, no one's going to be thinking about the third-string left tackle who let up a sack, right? Now, there is one maybe position group that I have been looking at closer than others that's been a bit underwhelming so far, and that's the defensive line, because this group is a group in a room in the NFL that you see a lot of rotation at. You don't just see the same 3 to 4 defensive linemen for the entire game and entire season. And so far, we haven't seen DJ Jones or Draymond Jones out there all that much. And we've seen more of the Deshaun Williams and McTelvin Ajeems and Mike Purcell and Matt Henningsen and going on. But this has not been a very stable and deep room so far, which has led some to wonder, hey, what about a guy like Ndamukong Suh? And now we kind of go back to the conversation we were just having, which was, yes, this has been a name that has been floated around the AFC West, and maybe the Broncos could go out and make a move for someone like Suh to really put this defensive room together and be one of the better ends in the NFL. When it comes to Ndamukong Suh, I'm not sure how great of a fit he is for the Broncos. He would line up at that 5 technique, bump Deshaun Williams out of the starting lineup. He's more of a 3 technique defensive tackle, right? Now, he does help a lot in pass rush, which is great, but the Broncos don't need a ton of pass rushers anymore. They've got that room. They've got that box checked. They need help in run defense, and that's not really when Ndamukong Suh's forte is. So I think at this point, Ndamukong Suh is a fun name to toss around there because he's been in the league for so long and he's had some great seasons and moments. But at this point, is he really actually the difference maker for this Broncos defense? Is he the one missing puzzle piece? Probably not. If you wanted to go down that route, what about someone like Linval Joseph, okay, or Sheldon Richardson, more of your run-stopping defensive linemen, not so much in the Ndamukong Suhs of the world. Some other Broncos news to get to here. So this team has to get down to 80 players by Tuesday afternoon, and George Paton has already made his first move where he has waived/injured defensive line Marquiss Spencer. What that means is another team can pick him up, and if he clears through waivers, he can return to the Broncos, and maybe that's what Paton wants to do, to stick him on the practice squad, wait for him to get healthy. He suffered a knee injury during practice, and ultimately, you haven't seen much from him so far. In fact, we've seen 2 somewhat notable moves/cuts made by Paton, okay? Last week, it was Johnson, the safety. This week, it's Spencer. You've seen 2 guys that Paton drafted be one of his first cuts. Didn't even get past the 80-man roster. A name that comes to mind of someone who could be next, McTelvin Ajeem. He's yet to really make a splash for the Broncos so far. Former third-round pick out of Arkansas, has yet to really find himself in the NFL. So that's a name to keep an eye on, as Paton has showed, and he's put a pattern out there of, listen, I'm not going to put my ego above this roster. I don't care if I drafted you. If you're not one of the 53 or 80 or 85 best players on the field right now, sayonara. All right, as we say sayonara to you guys, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are looking for a Denver Broncos YouTube channel for the entire 2022 NFL season, voila, you have found it. Subscribe and join one of the fastest growing Broncos country communities here on YouTube.